Welcome back to another episode of the TikTok Famous podcast. Today I have on Cory, known online as CFH Unfiltered. He is no stranger to the fight, from a broken home in an Indian reservation to the unforgiving sands of Iraq, where he served 2 combat tours as a sniper. His life has been forged in fire. However, he changed his conservative voice when he met the woman who challenged everything, and he is sparking a transformation that now fuels his unfiltered political commentary to over 600,000 listeners. So I hope that you will stay with us.
You're listening to the TikTok Famous podcast, where viral fame meets raw reality. Join your host, Meredith Willits, as she dives deep with your favorite creators to uncover the real stories behind the scroll, the highs, the lows, the algorithm chaos, and everything in between. This is not your average interview. This is the TikTok Famous podcast.
Cory, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. 600,000 followers in a year. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. It's definitely unexpected. I planned on doing this for a year, and if it didn't work out, I was gonna close shop.
Yeah. It can be frustrating at times. So 2 tours in Iraq as a sniper. What is that like, knowing that what you're about to do is going to end someone's life? What is that like?
Well, growing up in the country, you kind of have this idealistic, almost romantic view of warfare. And when you enter that arena at such a young age, you kind of get a shock, like a reality of, one, what mortality means.
Yeah.
Right, what the end of existence means. And those were 2 things that were a struggle for me for a long time. Ending another human being's life is, there's a book that's written, it's on killing, and as far as like all of warfare, all the things that can happen to you in warfare, the killing of another human being is one of the worst things that psychologically for a person to go through, especially when it's in such a brutal way. Like, basically it's, I don't know if I could say this online, but it's murder, right? Like, my job was to identify an enemy that I thought was doing something bad, like burying an IED, and then I judge whether he lives or dies, and the consequence of that, of breaking your own value system, that like life is precious, things like that. Honestly, if I'm gonna speak frank about it, you fucking learn that human beings they're just that, human beings, whether they're brown, whether they're Muslim. And there's like this, I've studied this in college. There's this dehumanization process that allows a population to separate themselves from a group of people, and it makes them think that they're exceptional, right? Like white Americans from the country, American exceptionalism. Yeah. So when you have that, even though you're back home, I'm talking about the population, even though you're back home, like, you're okay with the killing of brown, poor Muslims in another country, right? And it's not like, it's fucking terrible. And I'll tell you what, everything that I was told about the Islamic people, that they were crazy, that they didn't care whether they lived or died, I can tell you firsthand, one, it's hard to end somebody's life because they want to live, because they're a fucking human being like me. They have children, they have a family, they feel the sun on their face in the morning. Like, the sun's rising right now. Everybody around the world has that feeling of starting the day. And I struggled with that for a long, I still struggle with, I'm gonna struggle with that shit for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But
and you're told through the military and through the programming of, school and, like, hey, we're the good guys, we're saving the world. I think that as you travel, just like myself, like traveling, you start to realize that, the United States doesn't necessarily have all the answers. We don't do all the things right and in the name of the right reasons. I remember my son, my youngest son, he's very interested in the military. He's always been. I'm like, dude, you had a past life somewhere in World War II or something. And there's a part of me that I'm like, hey, like if someone comes to our house, so our house being United States, Illinois, whatever, I'll be the first one to hand you a gun. But if I'm just going to send you to another country to fight some crazy war, we learned this, I think, in Vietnam best, and then again, and, with weapons of mass destruction in the East or, in the Middle East, you're not going, because I really don't feel like losing a son so that someone can get cheaper oil or have, their dad's argument ceasing to exist to Saddam Hussein or whatever. How do you feel about what I just said right there?
I'm a 40-year-old man now, and now I have the wisdom to understand that there are very few things that are worth ending your existence over. The protection of your homeland, the protection of your family. I mean, those are about the two that I can think of, that because it's permanent. It's going to be brutal. You're not going to want it to happen. You're going to make weird sounds when it happens. And you are going to, for that 10 seconds that your existence is ending, you are going to be pleading to anything and anybody, please, God, don't let this happen to me. And then it's done. But when you're in your 20s, you don't think about that. And I feel when you're in your 20s, you want to be this big tough man. You want, but really you're just a fucking kid. Like you're just a kid. And every young man has a journey, right? I'm very grateful for what I experienced, regardless of how brutal it was, because now I have a beautiful family. Not only do I have a family, but like I have the wisdom. I take all of those lessons and apply it to my life, and I have the wisdom to deeply love my wife, deeply love my daughter, my country. But there are very few things that are worth dying for, and I think young men, they don't really, I don't want to disparage them, right? But they don't have that wisdom to reflect on what the end of existence truly means, and risking that.
Do you think they capitalize on that? And by,
for sure,
enlisting, do you think that the same sort of rhetoric that is used to, pull these kids in and pull these military families in and like, hey, like you're serving the greater good, it's for a greater purpose, all this other stuff, that kind of feels like what's going on right now in the United States. Like, this is for the greater good. We're sending troops to Chicago. Like, we're cleaning up the streets. We're going to put these homeless people in shelters. Like, it's that group think of the greater good mentality, but at what cost and who's greater good, right? Like, that's the sentence, right? Whose greater good are we working towards, if you will?
I think patriotism, time and time again through history, has been used to manipulate people, young men. And the last thing in your peer group, the last thing that you want to do is stand up and say, yo, hold up. This don't feel right. Right? Because everybody, you got a bunch of men that you respect that are like, we're going to go there and we're going to do our fucking job. And the last thing you want to do is be a young man and be like, hey, this don't seem right. Because then you're going to be, then it's social death. Then you're going to be ostracized from your community. I mean, the whole thing is just, it's complicated. But yeah, I see the same thing happening. I see the ramp up of patriotism. The same thing that happened in Bush is happening now. Yeah. It's just happening domestically.
Yeah.
And my alarm bells are ringing. They have been ringing for years. It's in the language.
It's in the language. Me
Mm-hmm.
versus them, us versus, them. When you were younger, though, you did hold strong conservative beliefs. Is that before, during, and after the military? Was this from childhood? Were you trying to be part of the rich kids, part of the, like, I always look at it like, oh, I'm a Republican, I'm wealthy, like I'm a part of that crew. I just made a video about that this morning. It's like you want to be a part of that fraternity, that sorority. Was that kind of the way you felt as a conservative, or was it, I mean, I talked to my dad about this because, I grew up in a very conservative family, but like my dad says, conservative beliefs originally were just financially conservative. It was just fiscal responsibility. And not until later did it become all of this social conservatism, that wasn't a thing for Republicans back in the day. What led you from being conservative Republican to kind of where you lie now?
So I grew up pretty poor. I was raised by a single mom. I don't know how many of your viewers have been to an Indian reservation, but they're the poorest areas in the United States of America.
Yeah.
And the school I went to was mostly Hispanic. So it was Indian reservation with like a 90% Hispanic population. The industry's agriculture. And being raised by a single mom, like we struggled out. We were poor, single wide trailer. And I come from a long line of cowboys, and we have like a proud family tradition. And that conservative values are just kind of embedded in these country towns.
Why do you think that is? I find it fascinating. It's almost like this weird, I don't even know, indoctrination. It's like I hold these values. It's almost religious.
It is. I think it stems from the fact of being self-reliant. Like if you look back on old conservative values, it was all about being self-reliant, which I think is great, right?
Yeah.
I think that is a really important thing to push onto your population. But I also think there's a low rate of college education. I mean, look at me. I don't live in my hometown anymore. Everybody that gets a college education, they leave.
Yeah.
They leave those poor areas. They don't come back because I don't give a fuck what people have to say about college education. It trains your brain to learn how to critically think.
Yeah.
If you work in construction, I went to college for 5 years. If you work in construction for 5 years, every day you get a little bit better. And at the end of that 5 years, you're measuring, you're cutting, you're using a skill saw, table saw like it's nothing. Like you just become proficient in it without even realizing you're becoming proficient in it. When you read, when you process information and think about it and then regurgitate it in a way that other people can understand by writing 15-page papers all the time, incrementally you become better at processing information and then regurgitating that in a simplified form where people can understand. I'm getting a little too intense. I got a shepherd, so she's really in tune with my emotions.
She's like, what are you doing, Dad?
But all of those people with the ability to do that leave those areas.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm one of them because I wanted better opportunity. I mean, it's all.
Do you think it's a lot like I see immigrants who are now legal. I know them. I am friends with them. And they are the number one anti-immigrant people that you will find. Go to South Florida and you will see a large groups of people in South Florida that are so anti-immigration. I'm like, sis, you're an immigrant and you got here the way that you got here. And do you think that that's kind of like, hey, I made it, so you better make it too? I pulled myself up, so you better pull yourself up mentality. So it's like everybody better pull. And like my oldest son, we grew up in a white neighborhood, went to Miami of Ohio, very white on white on white is very white. And now his job has him working with a lot of different people. And through this job that he does and working with a lot of people, mostly uneducated, mostly, I would say 100% blue collar employees, he's learned so much that not everyone has the same intelligence. They don't have the same opportunities. They weren't sent to college by their parents. They don't have the same IQ even. They don't have the same health status. They don't have the same parents. And he's learning very quickly that pulling yourself up by your bootstraps only gets so far. Not everybody is created equally, and some people do need a hand. And I think it's easy to close your eyes to that when you want to just ignore that not everybody is created equal. And now we find ourselves with, this new, I don't even know if it's an executive order or if it's from Florida, where they're like, we don't even want to give some IEP kids a certificate of completion for going kindergarten through 12th grade, which, I mean, to me, that's criminal. I mean, it's just criminal. But I think go ahead.
I think exceptionalism is everywhere. So I look at my parents. My parents grew up in poverty. They were on food stamps. They got state assistance. Now they're employed. My mom and my dad they're both self-sustainable in our society. But then they want to turn around and they want to say, yeah, but I deserved it.
Yeah.
I deserved it. Those other people that are on assistance, they don't deserve it. Yes. I'm exceptional. I deserve it. So if you study social psychology, there's a whole bunch of, I love social psychology. It is one of my passions. If you look at, there's an experiment called the Milgram experiment. And what they did is they got all these people, and the person putting on the experiment was wearing a lab coat. He looked like a doctor. He had a clipboard. He looked very official. And the idea was, how obedient are regular people to authority? Mm-hmm. So they sat these people down in a chair with a dial in front of them. And they told them, turn the dial up. And when they turned the dial up, they heard electrical shocks in the other room and a guy going, ah, fuck, I'm getting electrocuted, right? And then the doctor was like, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up. And like 60% of those people turned it up all the way to the max setting, knowing that it would end the life of that person in the other room, simply because an authority figure told them to turn it up. All right, we're okay, Luna.
Poor Luna.
My point is if you ask a regular person, would you ever do that? They would say, no, I'm exceptional. I'm strong. In that situation, I would say, no, I'm not going to turn it up. Everybody likes to think that of themselves, that they're exceptional, but like they're not. Like, not even me. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Everybody is subject to these social psychological phenomenon happening all around us all the time. And
why do you think you and I aren't?
I think I think you need to have a certain level of humility and accept the fact. Do you know anything about alcoholism?
I'm sober 2 years, July.
The first step in getting sober is saying, I have a problem, right? So the first step to admitting that, the first step to becoming a better human, a better citizen to the United States is admitting that you aren't exceptional, that you are subject to propaganda, to brainwashing, to social, in other words, it's peer pressure. Social psychological phenomena it's just peer pressure. You're subject to that. And I am too, and I accept that I am. And once you accept that you are, that is the only defense. That is the only way to not to be, if that makes sense.
I look at it like there's a lot of people that say everything's like black or white. And then you like attach your ego to one side or the other. Like I am X, I am Y, and then there's no in between. And I don't know if you know Unlearn 16. She's from Canada. She's a teacher. I had her on the podcast. She's amazing. If you don't follow her, go follow her. Unlearn 16. And she talks about if you just go from a place of gray, like I don't know. Like I'm just going to unlearn everything I know and like go from there. And I know with you, your wife made a huge difference in the way that you went from being a conservative person to where you are now. And so you had to unlearn, I'm sure, everything that you thought that you knew, all the egoic attachments that you aligned yourself with, that exceptionalism, right? What was that like to have this woman that you are falling in love with say, I don't know how to tell you this, but you're wrong? What was that like internally?
It was a struggle. And I think you hit the nail on the head.
I'm sure you were like, however, I don't know.
I think we're having some internet issues. Can you hear me okay?
Of course. Yeah. I think maybe it's you. Yeah, I think it's you. Can't tell. Go ahead.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said you're like you have to detach yourself from your ego. It's fucking humility. Like that's what it is. And when I was back from my second tour, I mean, I'm still kind of an arrogant guy. Like I can be really cocky. And when I met my wife, my ego was huge. And I have a great respect for my wife. I mean, she is an absolute powerhouse. She is somebody I admire. And every day I wish that I was more like her. Like genuinely, I wish that I was more like my wife. So having somebody that you respect and you admire give you their perspective on women's rights, on how certain things make them feel. Your first instinct may be to
No.
Yeah, your first instinct is defensive. Like that's your knee-jerk reaction, right? Is to be defensive. And learning is uncomfortable. Especially if it involves popping your ego. And I feel like on the right wing that needs to happen. I think egos need popped. And it's just an uncomfortable experience. If you're not uncomfortable, then you're not learning in life. And she challenged she still challenges my perspective. We've been together 16 years, and it's something that is so valuable. If you can find somebody that you respect and admire who challenges your perspective, that's fucking growth. Like that's how you become a more efficient, better, capable, successful human being. And I think a lot of people don't realize that.
I'm always saying my family gets so mad at me. I'm like, they'll be talking, having a conversation. I'm like, that's racist. They're like, Mom, you think everything's racist. I'm like, because everything is racist. I'm like, you can't say that. You can't do that. You can't whatever. Like, you know, I remember going through the whole man versus bear debacle chaos on social media. And I made a couple videos about it. And there's so many men that were just like, that's so stupid. It's like, maybe instead of calling it stupid, you just kind of put a pin in it and say, why are these women saying that? What have they gone through? What is going on out there? How am I not calling in my brothers to make women feel more safe? And it's that same kind of thing. Like it's, you know, like I tend to be like the guard in the family, you know, and then I'll see videos that are like, if you're with a woman that is constantly doing this, and I'm just like, we're doing it because we have to. And then I'm like, okay, wait a minute, ego, teachable moment. Maybe you could dial it back a little bit. Like, and it's uncomfortable because you want to believe that the way that you do things is the right way because it's who you are and it's the right way and it has always worked. But I think as those buttons get pushed inside of us, that discomfort is like, oh, teachable moment. Oh, teachable. Oh, ego. Have you ever posted something that you were afraid of losing followers because of your views? I mean, I'm assuming that you started your social media life post wife challenging you, changing your views, and understanding a little bit more where you want to live on this planet, politically, spiritually, emotionally. Have you ever posted something where you're like, wow, I just really pushed the limit here?
I mean, not really. I try to live my life as honestly as possible, and I don't like. I'm not a fucking performer. Like I'm not an actor. If you look at my videos, a lot of those videos, especially the ones that do really well, that's done in one take.
Right?
Because and it's hard because sometimes you stumble on your words, but I I am determined to be raw and authentic while still maintaining my integrity in this field. But have I posted anything I regret? You know what? One time I did, actually. Yes. Do you remember the what's it called? The 4B movement on
Yes.
TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna post a video where I'm like rapping to a song. This was early in my career, early in my social media experience. I've been doing it for like 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I always have my wife look at my content before I post it.
I love that.
And
Am I
yeah,
screwing up here?
because I'm unfiltered, dude. CFH, legitimately, I am unfiltered. I put my foot in my mouth all the time, but I'm a kind-hearted person. Anyway. So I posted a rap song, and I don't remember what the blurb said, but I had my wife show it, and she said, that kind of trivializes what the 4B movement is about. And I didn't like hearing that because I thought it was a cool video, right? But I've really thought about that. The entire thing about the 4B movement was that women feel like their power is being taken away in society, and they're scared about getting fucking dominated, dude. And I don't feel that way as a man in society, so it's easy for me to post a video that almost like trivializes it, that is a little performative, right? And I don't want to be that kind of person.
Yeah.
Going back to what you said about the man versus bear, a lot of those guys, they need to self-reflect though, because there's a lot about you as a person that's really uncomfortable. And if men don't understand that women choose the bear in our society, then they haven't self-reflected on their own like dark desires, their own feelings of domination over other people, things like that. They absolutely refuse to self-reflect because, in my opinion, they're scared of what they are going to uncover about themselves. Because at the end of the day, everybody has to look in the mirror and say, you know what? I'm a pretty good dude. My wife watches Dateline and murder mystery shows, and a lot of guys are like, "Oh, these women watching these murder mystery shows. Oh, I better watch out. I don't want them to poison my coffee." But that's not why women watch those shows. It's not to unalive their husband. It's because women are so afraid of being unalived that they are learning from somebody else's lesson. And then they're internalizing that lesson so that they can survive in a society where women get unalived in domestic violence situations.
Well, you just got to ask yourself, like, if a woman says man versus bear, I choose the bear, and that triggers you, why? Like, we're all capable of
Why?
evil.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that is such a huge thing. I've mentioned it before. I did ayahuasca, and one of the things that I saw was you're just as much capable of evil as anybody else. And it's just your choices every single day. You choose good, you choose bad. You choose love, you choose hate. You choose fear, every minute of every day you're either making your physical body filled with color and rainbow and light and all these things, or that black big toe just starts to grow like, dysentery up your leg of evil and hatred. Like, I am just as capable. Like, you've done it. You've held the rifle, like whether you wanted to or not, or whatever the case is, we're all capable of the same things. You did it, and now you're choosing a different life path. You're choosing to speak about, hey, I don't want that blackness to grow inside of me anymore. I'm gonna make choices every single day to leave that part of me and make it as small as I possibly can. But I think it's the shame that blackness lives inside of us, and we just want to push it away and be like, nope, it doesn't live in me. I'm perfect. I'm exceptional. And it's like, no, you might make choices every day that are exceptional. You may make choices every day that are in love. But I will tell you right now, if I hear my husband chewing granola from across the room, that darkness grows me very quickly, and someone might be like, I'm the perfect wife. No, I get angry. I get angry at my kids. I get angry at my friends and my family and myself. But I think it's that belief of that exceptionalism, that we're perfect in America, and anything you say. I had the guy from the Necessary Conversation, Chad, on my podcast. I think it was last week, even maybe it was the week before, by the time people listen to this. And a lot of people talk to him about, you are platforming hatred by his parents. And he's like, no, this is out there, people. Like, you need to know what we're dealing with when we're having these conversations. And although you're hearing it and it makes you uncomfortable, there's a pretty decent chance that your neighbors are saying the same thing behind closed doors, and you might not just be privy to it. And so I think that we need to wake up and realize that we have a sickness in our society. And what we're seeing right now is the top of the zit. We're just seeing the top of the zit. It's all been there this whole time. Otherwise, Ku Klux Klan would have never existed, and I think that it's all coming out. It's all finally coming to the surface, and we're able to see it. I made a video probably 3 years ago, and I was like, I wish people just would wear t-shirts that are like, I am a bigot. Whatever. So at least I wouldn't pretend or think to pretend that you're the same person that I am. And I don't know. Is that how you see what's going on right now? Do you think it's all just finally coming to the surface in a grander scale?
Yeah, I think we have some deep-seated issues in our country that have always been behind closed doors. They've always been underneath the surface. And I think with this administration, those have now become
Normalized.
Normalized. Yeah. I love that podcast, by the way. I relate to that situation all the time because
Same.
that is similar to how I grew up.
Yeah.
So I very much appreciate what he's doing because
So do I. A lot of people give him shit about it. They're blocking him and all that. And I look at it, I'm like, dude, don't block it. That's what we've been doing for the last, 50 years is we've been blocking it. We've let the Klan stay in the South and, under masks. Like, now the masks are off. Like, and also, P.S., in my opinion, he's giving conversation and helping me with conversation with people that are in my life that I don't want to cut out, ways to frame or be calm about asking these questions or getting into conversations. I sometimes think it's futile, but I do enjoy his podcast because, I think it's one thing when we put stuff out on social media. It's another thing to have these conversations in close quarters with family members. I think it's really, really difficult. And I think, unfortunately, what you and I do when we talk about these things, and so many other creators that are talking about what's going on now, it's almost like we're just like planting little tiny seeds, and then they might scroll off, and then they might come back and pay attention, and a little tiny seed. But I think a lot of times the one-on-one conversation almost at this point is almost impossible.
I like how you said planting seeds. I have a story. My first sniper team leader, we were in a hide site in Iraq, and we were talking about the Second Amendment, right? And
Makes sense.
being from the country, I was huge. Like I wanted the Second Amendment to be expanded, right? Which is crazy talk. And he's like, well, no. He's like, that's stupid. He's like, why would you own, automatic weapon? Why would you own small arms that aren't single shot rifles? Because you're not even trained in the Army. Like when you're in combat, unless you're a saw gunner, if you just carry an M4, you're doing single shots, right? You're not going automatic. So he's like, what's the purpose of that? And I was like, well, to defend the population against the government. And he's like, dude, he's like,
It's the government.
Tanks. He's like, when they roll through your neighborhood, small arms, that's what it's called, small arms. When you have, it's basically just the weapons you carry are called small arms. He's like, small arms ain't gonna do shit to a tank. He's like, so that argument is stupid. And it made me so angry that he said that, because it challenged my opinion. But I couldn't stop like thinking about that. Like it planted this little seed. And yeah, I mean, I still think the Second Amendment is important. But civilians do not need to be having automatic weapons, right?
Yeah,
like that's pretty.
They're hog hunting, Cory. They're hog hunting. Come on,
civilians shouldn't own those. So yeah, like it just planted that little seed that made me critically think about something that I was very strong about, and I think that's healthy.
Do you think being in Iraq, seeing what you've seen, going to college, living on a reservation, living amongst poverty, now having a normal family that's, seemingly, on the other side of that poverty situation, looking at all that you've been through, being a conservative in your past life right now, when you look at the dictatorships and that rule, that dictator rule that I'm sure you witnessed in Iraq, where everything's illegal, right? And now you're seeing this administration sending troops, getting rid of due process, executive order after executive order, tried to make burning a flag yesterday illegal. What would you say to the people that would argue that what Trump is doing is helping?
I'm disappointed, to be honest. Like, it's so clear to me what is happening. When I was in Iraq, they had these giant posters of whatever religious leader. Like, you look at any Middle Eastern country and there's these giant posters on government buildings of the religious leader. And then you look at Trump, who just put his giant picture on the Department of Labor. And I'm going to do a video on it, comparing those side by side, because they're everywhere. And the Supreme Court ruled that it is freedom of expression to burn the American flag, even though I don't like it. Like that pains me to my soul when somebody does that. But the Supreme Court ruled on that. And now the president just said, you know what? I am going to overturn what that equal co-branch of government just did. And I'm going to say it's now illegal. So now you're telling me that one man now has the power he's the chief enforcer of the law, right? That's what the executive branch does. But now he has the power to interpret law and pass law without going through Congress or the judicial branch.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that called? What is that called? Because the American flag, it stands for liberty and it stands for freedom of expression. And whatever that is called is completely the opposite of what that American flag stands for. And I know a lot of people get angry that people burn the American flag, but here's the reality.
And that was an Army vet that did that, by the way, or a military vet that burnt that in front of, I think it was the White House.
I'm posting this video today with this point, that it's a catch-22. If you outlaw the burning of the American flag, because burning the American flag, that's freedom of expression without hurting anybody, right? It's political expression. And that is what America is founded on. The First Amendment
Freedom
is
of
first
speech.
for a reason.
Yep.
So if you outlaw that, then the American flag no longer stands for what it stands for. Therefore, you should burn that fucking flag.
Yeah.
It's a catch-22.
Yeah. I guess he was like innocent of the charges of burning an American flag because it is only an executive order, but he was charged with lighting a fire in a public park. So he still is being criminally prosecuted for something, but he was he's a military vet. I don't know which branch to be exact. I don't want to misspeak. But I don't understand how people aren't recognizing all these slippery slopes. Due process for one, due process for all. When we have the people in the government retweeting, we should have it, women should not vote. We should have a one vote household. Like all of these things, like I don't understand why people or how people aren't seeing where this is headed and why they need to be saved. Why do people feel like they need the government to save us from everything? Like I thought you wanted smaller government, but I think they just wanted smaller helping people, but they want larger oversight. I think if I looked at everything right now, it would be, I want to spend less money to help people and I want to spend more money to criminalize everything. That is how I would kind of sum up what we're looking at right now. I mean, right? Like, because we got rid of everything that helped people, or we're getting rid of everything that helped. USAID, SNAP benefits, Social Security for people that are medically or need poor people, children. I mean, millions and millions of people on Medicaid were children. But then we're going to spend all this money for all this really crazy stuff of militarizing cities and things like that. Why? What do you think that is? It's like Big Brother is a dad.
Well, I think that if you watch, Fox News, you think that there's a criminal right outside your door, just
Yeah.
waiting. Fear, like if you look in history, like this has happened over and over and over and over again in history.
Yeah.
Where you have a population, wages have been decreasing. There's been a huge gap between rich and poor for a long time, since the 60s. Since they start the auto manufacturing industry in the 60s, shipped a whole bunch of jobs to China. That destroyed Detroit, absolutely destroyed them.
Yeah.
And then you have the media telling you that the world's dangerous, that there's crime everywhere, even though crime has been going down.
Yeah.
In history, this has happened over and over again. And then you have a strong man that comes in and is like, I'm going to protect you.
I'm going to save you.
I'm going to fix everything. This is normal, what's happening on a human scale. Like it sucks, but it's normal.
It's almost religious. I mean, if you look at the church.
Well, that's the other thing too. Suffering makes people go to church.
Yeah.
Fear makes people go to church. Fear and suffering makes people want to be saved because they are so scared, they're so desperate, and they just want this tough person that's going to fix everything and save them. But that's not what's going to happen, because that's not what has happened in history over and over and over again. It always leads to more suffering, and it leads to mass violence.
Yeah. I mean, I've said it 100 times. Create the demons, create the monster, and then be the one to save them from it. Mm-hmm. That's Church 101. And I'm a spiritual person. I believe in God. I am a follower of Christ's teachings. So I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, I do. But read the red words. I feel like we need to start looking at, he's creating a monster that doesn't exist, but he's telling everyone it's out there and that he's the only one that can save them from it. I was sitting there the last 2 days, or, maybe even longer, when he's talking about sending troops to Chicago. I'm sitting in, Chicagoland right now. My daughter lives in Chicago proper. And how about we just hire some more police officers? It would give 100 people more jobs, create, a new livable wage for 100 more families in the city of Chicago. How about just send funds to increase our police budget then, instead of militarizing these cities and creating a more problem and more frustration and more violence. I mean, you think that you're going to send people here and it's going to go well? It's the great setup. We're inside of the great setup. And I don't know how people don't see that. Is there crime in Chicago? Of course there is. Is there drug issues in Chicago and gang violence in Chicago? Of course there is. It's a big city filled with desperate people. And show me a desperate person and I'll show you a dangerous person. But instead of working with the community and finding the holes and filling them in, they're just going to send the military? Like, to me, it's like you're going to pour gasoline on the fire here. You're going to pour gasoline on every single city that you send the military in. And now they've armed the military in DC with weapons, which I don't even think that was ever supposed to happen. Like, we're putting guns in people's hands to fight our own citizens. Like, all of this is wacky. When you're looking back at the moment, and maybe it was many moments when your wife was talking to you about WTF are you doing or thinking, was there one moment or was it many moments that stand out to you that was like, I'm doing it wrong?
It was a lot of moments. It's just, and college education helped because it allowed me to hear a lot of perspectives from a lot of different people from around the world that had different skin colors, religions, like all that matters, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of want to touch on this crime and how to deal with it. Crime is a byproduct of a lack of opportunity.
Yeah.
That's why I keep mentioning, even in my TikToks, I keep mentioning Detroit. Detroit was one of the richest cities in America. It was amazing. It was the Motown.
Yeah.
The auto manufacturing capital of the world. There was
Yeah.
so much money flowing in, little crime. It was great. And then the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. All of those jobs got shipped overseas. So now the people that were able to own land, white people, right, they could sell their house and leave. Black people in the 60s, they weren't able to buy a house because racism exists.
Yeah. Redlining.
Yeah. Like, they go into a neighborhood and be like, I want to buy that house, but it's a white neighborhood. That person's gonna be like, you know what, it sold. Like that happened. So those people, they rented and they had to stay, but now there's no opportunity in Detroit.
Yeah.
None. Bro, it's normal. It's normal when you strip an entire population of their future and their opportunity and their ability to be proud of themselves. When you strip them of that, it is normal to have crime and poverty. What the fuck are we thinking?
Desperation.
That is a normal human thing.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I saw, there was this guy they were interviewing, and I don't know if you saw this, we're probably on the same FYP. He voted for Trump, and he was, gung-ho about, border control and all of the things. And within 6 months, he lost his job as an electrician. And what his job was being an electrician to create these solar farms and for, green energy. And as I kind of am looking, because I actually sold cars in the early 90s. Like, so I was at the heyday of Ford and the Ford plants. And, I grew up in a town that had a humongous Ford plant, and the town over had a humongous Ford plant. So I have watched the towns that I've grown up in and around decimate, the same as Detroit, exactly what you're talking about. But the problem is that instead of wanting to move forward with green energy, instead of wanting to move forward and get education in job training and all of these new fields, what happens is that the people that are, again, stuck inside of that black and white parameter of ego of what I know is good, they want to go back to coal. They want to go back to, steel mills. And it's like, that ship has sailed. Now what? And I think that that's where we're at right now as in the United States is now what? Now we can create these blue collar jobs of electricians and plumbers and green jobs and IT jobs. We have to reinvent ourselves as a nation. You're seeing that in the schools right now. Like the schools, the education is primarily to create factory workers. Sit there, behave 8 hours, don't move, don't breathe, anything. And now they're trying to implement like, you go over to this station and you use your hands and you learn a lot of things and you create this and whatever experiments. And so I think what we need as a United States, as a country, is to start embracing the next chapter. What does that look like? Where are people going to work? And how is that going to work out? Because this guy, he's an electrician. He's your blue collar guy. He was making a life for himself and he was supposed to have that contract. I think they said till 2028. That job is gone. And being in Maine, the funny part of the video is like, dude, you're in Maine. What are you worried about the border for? Like, you're in Maine. You should have voted your interest that you have a green job. And I don't think, and people, to your point of Detroit, people would argue, well, that's why we have tariffs, is to bring those jobs back. The problem is that the tariffs, that would have to be like a 10-year runway for those to work. It would have had to been like, all right, look, in 2035, we are going to have tariffs on cars. Anything that's produced overseas, we are going to put tariffs on. This is going to give us a 10-year runway to reopen the plants, bring the jobs back to America. But unfortunately, it was just like tariffs, good luck. And even if you do produce cars in the United States and you are producing, so many of the parts are coming from around the world. It just isn't being rolled out appropriately, I think is the biggest problem.
It's automated too. Like we're past that. We're past that as a society where a lot of good jobs came from manufacturing. That is gone. It's done. A lot of those jobs would have been gone anyway because of automation and AI and robots. And right now what we're seeing is the barrier to entry. So as we advance as a society, and the United States is the most advanced society in the world. And as we advance, the knowledge and the barrier to entry to enter the workforce becomes higher and higher and higher and higher. Because now we're like the biggest thing that we export is technology, which requires advanced degrees, right? That is and now it's going to be AI, not only technology, not only coding, but now you add AI on top of that, and we keep stacking the requirements for these entry-level jobs. And society is still, like you said, pushing people through schools, preparing them for a manufacturing job.
Literally.
So, I mean, if we learn to solve all of these problems, like we've done it, like we fixed the world. But I mean, yeah.
I mean, I was telling you before we came on, like, I'm just at the point now where I'm like, okay, now what? We see the problem. We know it's there. It's happening every minute of every day. I mean, Aaron Parnas is driving me crazy. If you don't know who he is, he's always giving us breaking news for what latest and greatest executive is being passed. And it's overwhelming. And so, now what do we do? Now what's the next step? We know where we're at. I do think some people are listening. I really do. I do think people are learning. I really do. Hopefully. So what's your next step? I mean, just continue to inform the people around you to what?
I think the biggest thing that people can do, one, vote, obviously. Like there was this whole period for decades where the idea that voting doesn't matter. And I think that's still prevalent in the younger generation. And
Yeah.
that cannot be further from the truth. So get out and vote. And the next thing that people can do, unfortunately, they don't want to hear this, but it's talk to your friends and family, like about what's going on. Because a lot of them are checked out. If you're following me or some of these other political content creators, like you're in
it.
the know. You're in it. You know what's happening. Other people don't. Like their feeds are, cooking shows, because that stuff's stressful. Like caring about the future of your country is stressful.
It's very stressful.
But we need to have hard conversations with our family. If anybody who's watching has been following me for a long time, you'll know my dad was a huge Trump supporter. And I argued with that motherfucker for 10 years, dude. He would come over to my house and we would get into it and scream and yell, and we'd be looking stuff up on the computer. And I was constantly trying to unbrainwash him, because he said some crazy things. He said, well, maybe knowing my background, knowing how much I love my country, what I've been through, he said, maybe we do need a civil war. Maybe America could use a dictator as long as the people voted for him. And I could not believe the words coming out of his mouth. Now once it clicks, and it may take arguments, fact checking, but once it clicks, you can't unsee it.
You can't unsee
and we need to do that for our friends and family, because the future of our children, like, it literally depends on it. I started social media because my daughter was born, and I seen this red pill domination rhetoric, and I knew she's going to be on the receiving end of that. When she's 18, 19 years old, even before, she's going to be on the receiving end of those lessons that Charlie Kirk, Tim Pool, Nick Fuentes, on the receiving end of those. And as a father, it behooves me to try to do something about it.
Yeah. I've got 2 daughters and 2 sons. And it is, I was telling Chad from the Necessary Conversation, I said, the majority of the people around me have no clue what's going on. And he was shocked. And I'm like, they don't need to know. They voted, and then they moved on, and they lived their life, and, their landscapers doing their yard, and their cleaning ladies cleaning their toilets, and they're going to the mall today to buy a new Gucci bag, and it's fine, and I get that. I get that it's not in front of them. But it is really tough to, I don't know, it feels like it's getting more and more painful. Now that, maybe it's coming to my town in a theater near you, to ignore people ignoring it. It's harder.
It's easy. It's easy to ignore it, but the consequence of ignoring it is going to be grave.
Yeah, I just look at, we have a place in Michigan, and I know everyone up there that I know voted for him. And now that the Medicaid situation is going away, the majority of those hospitals run on Medicaid, and those hospitals are going to close. They're not sort of going to close.
Hospitals?
They're all rural hospitals. Mm-hmm. It's the, yep. Southwest Michigan, farmers, trailers, poverty, unless you're on the water, it's schools rated at 1, 2, 3, like poverty. And, Medicaid and people that are visiting, those are the people that are keeping those hospitals afloat. And if they close Medicaid, these hospitals are going to it's going to affect the very people that voted for him. And it's not going to be today. It's not going to be tomorrow. Hopefully it's not going to be ever. But I do look at it, and I'm like, the very people that are buying your products, the very people that are paying for your services, the very people that are coming to your hospitals, that are hiring you as a lawyer, whatever it is that you do, they're not going to have enough money to pay you anymore. Like this, no one is going to be unscathed in this debacle. No one. We're not going to be able to go downtown Chicago because it's going to be, I always just think about when you go to like Cancun I don't know if you've ever been to Cancun, but you go to like these Carlos and Charlie's and, you know, the Frogs place and this, that, and the other. And you would see people, military, on the back of trucks, like holding on, right? Like it's just and they all have their machine guns or AR-14s or 40s, whatever they're called. And I remember being so intimidated, being on vacation, seeing these people militarized, and we're doing that here. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is what you see in other countries, in third world countries, in countries that have dictators, and countries that have authoritarian regimes. We're going to have military standing in our cities with AR guns, and that's so sad.
It is. And I think some lessons, we're all learning lessons in life, not only as individuals, but as a society. And some lessons you learn too late, right? So think about 1/3 of all rural hospitals are going to close because they're running in a deficit, because they're propped up by Medicaid. So that means the MAGA voter who's a boomer, eats unhealthy, he has a heart attack. And now the nearest hospital is 3 hours away.
Literally.
And somebody's going to say all of these hospitals closed because Medicaid was cut. He's going to learn a lesson. And that lesson's going to come too late. And it's the same thing with society. We're going to learn a lesson. And I hope to God that it is not too late.
Yeah. I made a video this morning talking about that the boomers, you know, like unless you have $300,000 in the bank, if you need to go into a nursing home, you are screwed with Medicaid gone.
So it's so expensive. You're done. You're done.
You're done. It's $6,000 to $10,000 a month. And if you were poverty, you know, like slowly you can get rid of your money, sell your house, give the money to your kids, and then Medicaid kicks in and starts paying for you to live, you know, infinitum in a nursing home. That's gone. And I don't know about you, but there's not many Gen Xers that are welcoming you in the house.
No, my mother-in-law, she lives, we built her mother-in-law suite. She has brain cancer. She's had 10 brain surgeries.
Oh my
God. She was in a rehabilitation / nursing home for a year after her, I don't know, like 8th brain surgery. She's right side of her is completely paralyzed.
Okay.
Dude, it's expensive. $12,000 a month where I live for her to go in that nursing home. I hope that these boomers have kids that are going to take care of them, because they are about to learn a lesson. It's gonna be too late. And then they're gonna end up being the homeless person on the street who's getting evicted, who's getting his fucking camp bulldozed, and then now he's like, oh my God, I'm dying. You know what? Give me the heroin. My life sucks. Who cares? I'll do it. Now people are looking at him, fucking delinquent, drug addict, and then that's the cycle. You're gonna be too sick. You're gonna be too weak. You're not gonna make a fuss. You're gonna die with a little squeak on the streets, and that is your future. So let's start learning these lessons now. So
people need to wake up. People need to wake up that no one's going to be immune from this. No one. It's coming in from someplace. Oh, I've kept you for over an hour now, and I so appreciate you online. Your videos are excellent, by the way. The way you have like your face and then you've got the little video rolling underneath you. Very well done. You said you're like, I don't know, I'm new at this. You're doing quite well. The way you set everything up is excellent. So I appreciate you.
I learned that from Brad Doggett. He's one of the best creators on TikTok. You should go follow him. He's hilarious.
I'll have to check him out. But yeah, thank you so much for your service, first and foremost, but also for listening to that brilliant wife of yours and being open-minded. Clearly God had a better plan for you. And you're doing it. And that's what this is all about. Like, are you willing to take the microphone? And clearly you were. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate the conversation.
Absolutely. Everybody, I'll be here again next week. TikTok Famous Podcast. Check it out. Leave a review and all the good things. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the TikTok Famous Podcast with Meredith Willits. If you're loving the unfiltered stories and behind-the-scenes truths, Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show. Until next time,